everyone. This is Amy Barseghian with OC Mom TV. We are back with Ralph Rubio from Rubio's Restaurants. We've had the pleasure of spending the morning with him talking about the passion behind the company, the wonderful food, but now we actually want to bring some really great information to you for your families, and that's to learn a little bit more about the sustainable seafood practices that Rubio's ensures in their products for their customers. As we look at taking care of our families and making sure that we feed ourselves what's good, things that are good for us, as well as that for our children, I think it's really important that we learn more about what Rubio's provides for us, because it's really good for us to feed our families. So, Ralph, can you start by telling us what is sustainable seafood?
Yeah, I think sustainable seafood, what it's about is protecting the resource that you derive your food from. So in this case, take pollock for instance. Pollock is one of the largest seafood biomasses in the ocean, if not the largest. We use Alaskan pollock off the shores of Alaska for our original fish taco. We sold over 160 million fish tacos over the last 30 years. So I say that to make the point that we have to protect the resource, because as Rubio's continues to grow, and as our population throughout the world continues to grow, we need to make sure that we protect the resource so that generations down the road can't have access to this kind of seafood, right? So farming has become a big part of the sustainable movement, in that they have found effective ways to raise fish properly and in a clean manner. So for instance, our Alaskan, our salmon, our Alaskan salmon, which is actually, it's Atlantic salmon that's raised in Chile, and our tilapia, which we have a blackened tilapia taco, this is raised in Indonesia and Sumatra. They're raised in such a manner that they can add to the resource. So not just wild fish we're bringing out of the ocean, but we're farm raising fish too, so that we can maintain the supply and do it in an ethical, proper manner. 85% of the seafood that Rubio serves is deemed sustainable by a third-party source. And so and we've been using sustainable Alaskan pollock and farm-raised salmon for years. We've always wanted to do the right thing by the environment, and certainly by the food that we serve. And so it's just the right thing to do. And like I said, if we want to continue to serve fish tacos 20 years from now, we have to make sure there's enough fish in the sea.
Okay. Do you ever run into supply issues? Have you ever run into that?
Oh, there can be. Well, with pollock, because there's so much of it. About 20 years ago, the resource was really under a lot of pressure, and actually they were overfishing in the North Pacific. But a lot of many of the countries, especially the U.S. and Russia and China, came together to really take a more responsible approach to fishing pollock. They established quotas, and actually after about 5 years, they saw the resource come back. And so the pollock population in the North Atlantic is very healthy. So that's an example of where various countries came together to fix it. And I think that the world over, they're much more conscientious and aware of the situation in terms of overfishing. And so we are much more careful today than we were 20 years ago to not overfish the oceans. But as far as sourcing anything from Rubio's, yes, mahi-mahi is not deemed sustainable yet. Mahi-mahi is typically long line caught for commercial reasons, in terms to get that kind of volume of supply. The best way to fish mahi-mahi is to catch a whole caught mahi, but it's hard to do a lot of, get a big enough supply with whole caught mahi. So our mahi comes from Ecuador, and they are working to establish a truly sustainable fishery in Ecuador around mahi-mahi. But I mentioned that because a year ago, mahi-mahi was in very short supply. We then used Ono in its place, but then a year and a half later, mahi came back. And in supply, we were able to then put it back on the menu. We prefer mahi-mahi over Ono, in that the mahi-mahi, we like the texture, we like the flavor. It's a little more moist, just a better flavor delivery on the mahi than the Ono. So we are now serving mahi in Rubio. So, and also our shrimp is farm raised. Shrimp, Pacific white shrimp that we get from Asia, from Thailand in particular, and we've had great success with that. We use a medium, 4150 Baname white. So the salmon, the tilapia, the shrimp, the pollock are all sustainable fish. Like I said, 85% of the seafood that we serve is sustainable, and we're going to try to work our way to 100%.
That's a wonderful goal. So Rubio's prides itself on sustainable seafood, but also using the freshest of ingredients.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, fresh tomatoes, fresh peppers, jalapenos, serranos. We get our lettuce and our cabbage from. We try to source as locally as we can. So much of our produce comes from the Salinas Valley. And I was there. One of the things that Rubio's does, and any restaurant should do really, is they should go to the source. I mean, I mentioned to you that we source our seafood from all over the world. Well, someone from Rubio's always goes to visit the facility of the plant to make sure that they are maintaining the highest quality standards in terms of how they're producing the product that we serve to our guests. And so last year I had the pleasure of going to the field of Salinas, where they actually pulled the cabbage right out of the ground, and we ate the cabbage right there. It was so clean, it was so quality. And then it gets processed such that it gets chopped and sent to our restaurants, and it has to go through a distributor and such. But we really control the supply chain as well as anybody to make sure that that it's safe food and that it's high quality food always.
That's very comforting to know. You can receive that at Rubio's. So we've talked a lot about the menu items and passion behind the company. What can we expect from Rubio's coming up?
Well, we continue to expand on our seafood expertise. I'll let your viewers know that I'm working on a couple of new items that are really exciting for me. A shrimp and chorizo burrito, which is a new take on a shrimp burrito. Chorizo it would be a ground chorizo, not the sliced chorizo like you see in Spain, but we've already done a few versions of it. It's really amazing and delicious. We have our new citrus rice coming soon, which is a lemongrass rice. And so it's a white rice with lemongrass puree and a little sea salt, and it's delicious. So now instead of just getting a Mexican rice at Rubio's, we'll now have the option of getting white rice. We find that the citrus rice actually pairs really well with some of our seafood products, like the burrito I just mentioned. We've redesigned our Langostino lobster burrito, which you should see in October of this year, and with the basil butter. And again, it will feature ours. It'll be actually the first time we feature our citrus rice, and it's got guacamole and Langostino lobster with black beans. It's delicious. And let's see, what else? I'm also working with scallops. Maybe scallops and bacon is something that you can see.
See a little bacon though.
Yeah, we love bacon. We love that. Well, at Rubio's, we're also not just into flavor, but texture as well. And so you can imagine a nice soft grilled scallop, grilled with a little olive oil and some garlic and sea salt. And then you add a little fresh crispy bacon on there, and so you get the crunch with the scallops, and it's amazing.
Sounds delicious. There's also a special day coming up, World Oceans Day.
World Oceans Day, yes, on May 11th, and we celebrated it last year, something that the company's starting to do. We did this really cool thing. We had a beach party, and so we did a beach cleanup. We have surf lessons and bocce ball on the sand. We're going to repeat it again, that event this year. I believe it's on World Oceans Day on the 11th down in Oceanside by the pier.
Okay.
And so even if you're in Orange County, you can make it. It's an easy drive. We'll have food. We'll serve food. We're going to have a live band. We're going to have music. And so we're going to raise money, for environmental causes like Surf Rider Foundation and sort of thing. So it's exciting. We just want to, draw attention to the importance of sustainability of a clean ocean. It's very much, because Rubio's benefits and has benefited for 30 years from the ocean, so we want to give back. It's just the right thing.
That's wonderful. That's great for our Orange County families to know that May 11th they can join you down the Oceanside for a day of fun. Well, thank you very much for sharing all of your passion and this wonderful food with us today. And thank you for watching on OC Mom TV.